Hello, everybody. Let's see if it's going out. I just realised I haven't pulled the chat up on the other machine. So if you are in the chat, then please let me know if you can see me. And I'm just going to pop on over to my other computer and get the chat up on here, if I can type properly. Yeah, I hope if I go to my YouTube channel, it actually should show that I'm transmitting live. Yes, it is. 12 people watching, apparently, of which I'm one of them. So let's just have a look. And is it working? Yes, it's working. So I can see me there. And yep, thank you very much for the people in the chat. So I'm just going to pop out the chat. There we go. And right, so hello, everybody. It's 6 o'clock-ish, nearly. Thursday evening in the UK. It's another glorious sunny day today. I don't know if anybody can see, but I kind of try and work outside when I can, and I've been doing rule books this week. Primarily, I've been doing a lot of rule book work, so I've used the opportunity to sit outside. And stupid me, haven't learned in 47 years to wear suntan lotion. So right now, my ears are really sore, my neck's really sore, and all my face is really sore. It's been really nice in the UK for the last few days, actually. So yeah, got a bit of a suntan. So who's here? Right. So yes, John's here, Martin's here. Thank you very much. Paul's here, Susie's here. Hello, and David's here. Right. Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody, for popping in. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to go to my BGG guild. And yeah, going outside is dangerous. I try to avoid doing it. Well, I go outside, but I don't leave the surroundings of the house because, you know, that's where all the goblins live. Right, so let's pop on over to my BGG guild. I've had a few questions on there. I've got a few on Facebook as well, but let's get through the ones on the guild chat first, of which there is 4 or 5, I think. The BGG guild is kind of, I don't know, it's never been really busy, but since the Patreon launched, it's been less busy. Now, there are a number of people who've been a member of my BGG guild for a few years now, who contributed on there now and again. Some of those people have transferred over to Patreon, and of course, Patreon has the Slack channel and everything else. But there are still a number of people on the BGG guild who aren't patrons. But yeah, engagement on the guild seems to have dropped off a bit. I don't really want to, you know, cancel it, and I am still trying to put things on there for those people, but it doesn't get much traffic. And I like BGG guilds more so than Facebook, Twitter, or anything else, because it's permanent. You know, you'll post something on Twitter and it's temporary. You have a bit of a conversation, then it's gone. So if people want your opinion on something, sure, you can get it on Twitter. But if you want to go into any detail or anything like that, and it's the same with Facebook groups, whereas my BGG guild, it's there, it's permanent. I can link to it. You can look back at it a month later, a year later, 2 years later, and it's all there. So I do try and put some stuff on that thread because I believe it's a bit more permanent. So anyway, yeah, BGG guild. If you don't know how they work, BGG, Board Game Geek, has guilds. You can join guilds. Mine is guild number 2258. But the thing is, when you join it, you also really need to subscribe, because otherwise what will happen is you'll join it and you'll never see anything. Unless you go in and look for it, and who does that these days? Whereas if you subscribe to it, then every time there is a new post on the guild, you will be notified of it in your notifications area. And don't worry, you're not going to get spammed. There might be one post a week or something like that. But yeah, if you're interested, BGG guild number 2258, join, subscribe. If you want to know how to do it, then feel free to let me know. So a few other people. Josh Acosta is here. Hello. Chris Kimber, Tom's here. Thank you very much, Tom. Douglas is here. Barry's here. The guys from Norfolk here. Thank you very much. Gil's here. Hello. Yes, lots of people here. Right. So before I start fielding questions from everybody here, let's have a look at the BGG Guild thread. And the first question is from Chris Stanton, a friend of mine from 20 years ago now. I think it is, Chris, something like that. We go way back. And Chris wants to know, is the rate of release for living card game expansions too fast? So living card games, for those people who don't know, it's a type of game that was published by Fantasy Flight Games. They're kind of like collectible card games, but instead of buying a booster pack where you don't know what you're going to get, in a living card game, they release sets once a month, and then they release big sets, but you always know what you're going to get. So the game is a living game, because every month new cards come out and it evolves. It has all of the same things as a collectible card game, in that you build your own deck before you play the game, and they're releasing new cards all the time, which keep the game fresh. But the living card game model is, a pack comes out, you go and buy that pack, it costs you 10 quid, 12 quid, and you know exactly what you're going to get in there. I was a massive fan of the living card game model when it came out. I've played a number of the living card games, and most of them have been fantastic. I mean, I love Netrunner. I played the Call of Cthulhu one. I didn't get on with the Game of Thrones one, both editions of that. Yeah, played loads of them. The question is the release of expansions too fast? And I would have to say yes, for me personally. I was not able to keep up with the Netrunner one, which is why I ended up dropping out. It got to a stage where every month I would buy the pack, put it away. Next month, buy the pack, put it away. Next month, buy the pack, put it away. And then, oh, right, I'll have a game. I'm so out of touch. It's a lifestyle game. For those people who are really into it, once a month is probably about right. If you're seriously into it and you're playing every week, then that's fine. But for me, it's a bit too fast, and it's hard to keep up. Chris is saying, would they be better? Ignoring the old CCG release schedule of 1 large and 3 small, and going with 1 or 2 large expansions per year. Personally, yes. But that, obviously, that's not my decision, and I can't say whether that would be better for them. There is the Arkham Horror living card game, which is absolutely fantastic, even though it's quite random. That releases a new set every month. Now, if you're playing that story and you've played it, you want the next one within a month. So because that's different. You're getting the next part of the story. You're getting the next chapter of the story. And once a month is probably all right for that, so that you keep up with it. Anyway, if anybody's got any thoughts on the chat, then feel free to have a discussion. It's difficult for me to look at the camera and talk whilst also reading the chat. But anyway, yeah, if you've got any thoughts on LCGs, feel free to put them in the chat, or obviously the BGG Guild that I just mentioned. Now, for those people tuning in early, you probably want to know what the secret code word is, and something very special this month. It's not going to be food related. I couldn't think of anything. So what we're going to have is, you can probably see it up there. That's Claude. That's Claude the cat. So that's the secret passphrase. If you send me an email while this show is going out live, paul.grogan@outlook.com, Claude the cat is what the secret passphrase is. If you are a Patreon supporter, please put that in the email as well, and you'll get 2 entries into the competition. And one lucky winner is going to win £25 worth of games vouchers from GamesLaw. And if you win, then let me know what you spend it on. Right, let's just pop to the questions. Sam, any news you can share about the team play expansion for Adrenaline? Yes, development work is still going on. Even this last week, no, not this last week, last week, yeah, you know what I mean, not this week that we're in the middle of, but the one before. The final stages of development, I saw the emails about the things that they're the final bit, basically, and then they went to a development weekend at the weekend, and then I saw the report on Monday to say some of those bits worked, some of the bits didn't work. So it's still in development. It is getting close, but CGE will not, they will only put the game out when it's ready. And at the moment, every iteration of the game has had some problems, and they don't want to release a game until they are absolutely happy with it. It was supposed to be Q1 this year. It's now Q3 this year. I am still confident it will be Q3 this year. They have another week to decide, because then they've got to send me the latest prototype. And at UK Games Expo, we will be demoing it. So if you are at UK Games Expo, we will be demoing the team expansion for Adrenaline. And one of the main developers from CGE is actually going to be there. And he'll probably be running most of the session. So yes, it's still being worked on, but we're almost there. Right, a few other people have said hello. Hello, everybody. What American cons am I at this year? Origins in June, Gen Con in August, BGG Con in November. I think that's it. Because I think I'm doing like 14 or 15 cons this year, and those are the 3 American ones that I'm doing, which is enough, because all of those are like a week out of my time. But I love going to them, even though I'm horrendously jet lagged when I'm there and suffer from sleep deprivation for all sorts of issues. The guild, Raphael, yeah, guild number 2258. If you're not sure how to join the guild, feel free to drop me a private message using one of the methods. But yeah, pop on over there and have a look. Brandt wants to know, have I played Seventh Continent? Not only have I played Seventh Continent, I've done a review of Seventh Continent. So go and check out my review. It's on my YouTube channel. It's about 12 minutes long. I have very strong opinions of Seventh Continent. Essentially, I grew up playing choose your own adventure games. Me and Vicky, my partner, who doesn't really play games, we love mysteries, we love exploring, we love finding things new, we love all of that. So Seventh Continent is absolutely fantastic until you've played it, and then it's just very, very random. It's very random. They've increased replayability by just increasing the number of cards you get. So one game you might look in a hole and, oh, you might find a treasure, and the next game you might look in the hole and, oh, you get bitten by a spider. Completely random. So that, yeah, there's a lot of randomness in the game. The biggest problem is the replayability. It's absolutely fantastic. It's like the escape room games. We love playing the escape room games, but once you've seen the hidden number 17 by the side of the bush, you know it's there, and when you find it, it's great, and then you turn over card 17. But in Seventh Continent, once you've been to those places and you've seen those things, the replayability is a bit of a problem. But it's one of those games, everybody's jumping on the hype train about it and saying how amazingly fantastic it is. And like I said, it is, and we've loved playing it. Would we play that starting island again? We've played it twice. No, we'd spend 2 hours just going through the same. We know where everything is. We've done it. So effectively, it's just random after that. So yeah, anyway, I've got thoughts on Seventh Continent. Check out my video review for more information. Right. Oh, hang on a minute. I should be looking at the chat on here, because then I'm not touching. I don't want to be touching this laptop, because then it'll bounce up and down, and I think that looks terrible. So let's have a look. Legends of the Five Rings, the card game. Yes, I played a very early version of that. A friend of mine from way back when, James, was really into Legends of the Five Rings, and he brought it round for me to try it. And I was into lots of card games at the time. And oh my God, my head exploded. First of all, he brought round 2 tournament-worthy decks, right? To somebody who's never played the game before. And every card was full of text and interacted with this, that, and the other. My mind was absolutely blown. The new version that came out last year from Fantasy Flight, I got a copy. I read through it. It's very pretty. It's probably a very good game. Could we finish the first game? Nah. It's complex. It's heavy. There's a lot going on. It's probably fantastic if you get into it. I need something that's a little bit easier to get into. I've tried the Call of Cthulhu LCG, really enjoyed that one. Netrunner, obviously, really enjoyed that. The Star Wars one I played once and really enjoyed that. So yeah, the Warhammer one I've heard is really good. There's lots of them that I want to play and lots like I want to try. Right. Right. Paul.grogan@outlook.com. Yes, that is the email. Claude the cat. Yeah, no, it's not Claude as in Claude. It's Claude as in CLAUDE. That's his name. Interestingly enough, we've actually got 2 fluffy cats. Okay, and we bought these as gifts for. Right, yeah, this is going back a while, so this is a little bit of personal information. But when me and Vicky were living apart, when we started our relationship, I lived in Hertfordshire, she lived in Somerset. We bought ourselves 2 cute fluffy cats because we both like cats. One was called Claude, and the other one was called Charlie. Charlie's the black and white one who's in the other room at the moment, and she kept one of them and I kept the other one. And then when we visited each other, we would take the cats to see each other. It was a cute little boyfriend-girlfriend thing that you do at the time. But I've always wanted cats, and we always said that if the relationship works out and we move in together and we buy a house together, we're going to get 2 cats. And I was quite fussy. I wanted a black and white one and a tabby one. That's what I wanted. And it, and it just happened to match the black and white one and the tabby one that we had. And then when we got our cats from the RSPCA Centre, we got a black and white one and a tabby one. It was like it was kind of, destiny that we found exactly the cats that I wanted. I was being my normal fussy self, and it paid off. Unfortunately, Pickle is no longer with us. We still have Bramble. So for those people who follow me on Twitter and see all pictures of a black and white cat and don't see a tabby one, we lost Pickle about 4 years ago. So anyway, yes, Claude the cat. paul.grogan@outlook.com, and you'll be in with chance to win £25 worth of game vouchers from Games Law. Paul's watching and in the chat, so thank you very much, Paul, for your continued support of the show. Right, what have we got here? Claude, what is Paul's email address? Hopefully you've got that. That's yeah, that's Lanky Gamer. Hello. I hope Blackpool's quite sunny and not raining. Probably was sunny when I left. Right, what have we got? Outlook. Yeah, there's still people that use Outlook. That's me. Right, Seventh Continent versus Near and Far. Does Near and Far solve some of the issues you had? Near and Far. I've not played that. I've played Above and Below, which was quite random. It was nice, but it's quite random. So no, I've not played Near and Far. Right, Thomas is here. Hello, Thomas. For those people who don't know, Thomas is the Mega Meeple. Recently started doing Dice Tower stuff. It's Thomas Grogan, and I'm Paul Grogan. So yes, I've met my long lost brother. He's all the way over in America. Right, Alan wants to know Russian, German, or American railroads. Okay, so I have Russian railroads. It was one of my favorite games that came out that year. Absolutely love it. It does have a bit of a flaw, but I didn't notice that for the first X number of games. I have American railroads. I have German railroads. I haven't played either of them. I'm sorry to say, I really want to, but I'm so often teaching new games to new people, and I always like to play the base game first. So yes, unfortunately, I haven't played either of them. I am very keen to play both of them. Just I haven't got around to it yet. Am I looking forward to UK Games Expo, or is it too much hard work? I am in two minds about UK Games Expo this year. I'm excited about a lot of it, but I'm also more nervous than I was any other time because I'm doing too much. The good news is this year, CG have a big booth area, which I'm responsible for. I'm responsible for the whole booth, booking it, sorting out the demo staff and everything else. A friend of mine, Ben, has helped me with the organization of the logistics this year because I was collapsing under a weight of work. So thank you very much to Ben for doing that. But effectively, it's my responsibility, and I've had to do all of the planning and all of the organization for that. And then during the show, I've got to do that. Now, Expo for me starts on the Wednesday night. So I get there on the Wednesday. We have a meal out with Asmodee, which is great. We get to go out with Asmodee and have a meal. That's all great. But most of these things that you do, although they might be fun activities, the work mode is on. I am there. They've invited me because I'm a representative of CGE. There will no doubt be business-related discussions going on. So I'm not saying I'm not going to enjoy it. It's going to be great. We're going to go out for a curry in Birmingham somewhere. But that's Wednesday night. It kind of starts. Thursday, 9 a.m., Retailers Summit, which is all day, which I've got to run. I'm running the table there for CGE and also setting up the booth somehow at the same time. But I've got people helping me. Thursday evening, I've got the press event, which I need to go to. Then I've got to go back and train all of the demo staff on the new game. So that's going to be very late night. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all day, every day is going to be absolutely manic at the booth. But I've got extra people this year. So hopefully I will be able to take more of a supervisory role and not be sat at a table demoing constantly, which is what I love doing. But I've got so many other things to do, and people coming to see me to talk to me about various things, that this year I've hopefully got enough staff to man all of the tables so that I can take a step back from that. I'll still be there, but it means I'll be able to concentrate on other things. Friday night, I've got something planned. I've got the live pandemic, which I'm a guest on. I've then got to go from that to the live podcast recording. So I'm going to be absolutely shattered. Saturday, I've got the charity raffle, which I'm really nervous about, which if you don't know, Saturday night charity raffle. In fact, if you don't know about the live podcast, go and watch my latest video log where I talk about all the things I'm doing at Expo. Sunday, as soon as it finishes, 4 o'clock, got to pack the booth up. Got to get home because Isaac Childress is staying with me for 2 days. So he's probably going to leave Expo at 4 o'clock. He's going to get on the train. He's going to get to my house probably before I arrive home. And then he's staying with me for 2 days. So Expo is going to, people have said, oh, will you not have any time to play a game? I'm like, you're joking, right? It's going to be solid work. I love hard work. Don't get me wrong. I love it. When you combine the hard work with the sleep deprivation that I sometimes suffer at these events, that's when it becomes not enjoyable. So I'm looking forward to it, but I am also quite nervous about it. Anyway, right. What else have we got on the list? Oh, let's go back to the BGG Guild for a minute. So the next question on the BGG Guild thread is from Chewy. Hello, Chewy. You'll be watching this later, probably, unless you're in the chat. No, you're not. Right. What do you predict may be the next game changer, the way that Legacy Games has turned out to be? Well, that's an impossible question to answer. If I knew, I'd be doing it myself. I think, you know, if I knew the next big mechanic that was round the corner, then yeah, well, I don't know what there is next. I mean, we had deck building with Dominion, and then deck building has become a massive big thing that's been used in really clever ways. And from deck building came bag building. Legacy games and story-oriented games and play once games, so the escape room games, the legacy games, and the Seventh Continents, they have changed the market. They have opened up gaming to a much wider group of people. For example, my partner Vicky, who now loves playing all of those sorts of games. And yeah, stories in game, campaign modes. We've had campaign modes for a long time, but now all of a sudden it's cool and everybody's doing it, and they're all doing it in clever ways. I refer back to the Arkham Horror living card game. I don't know what's next around the corner. I'm hoping more development of the legacy aspect. Excuse me a minute. And I was working on one with two very big name designers. Some of you may remember I posted about this a couple of times, but I wasn't able to divulge any secret information about it. But Vlaja and Isaac Childress and me were working on a game together which had not really legacy aspects, but campaign aspects. And there was no ripping up of cards or anything like that. It was going to be a replayable game, but it would be anyway. It didn't work out. And that's a real shame, because some of us had put a lot of time and effort into that, and things just didn't work out. So unfortunately, that's not going to happen. I still have those ideas in my head, and I'd still love to do it, but I don't have time to do any game design or game development. Right, Chris is on the guild again regarding the Spiel des Jahres comments on rulebooks. For those of you who don't know, I have been banging on about bad rulebooks now for 3 years. Every time I'm a guest on a podcast where we talk about rulebooks, I listen back to it afterwards, and I am embarrassed, because I go on a rant, and I am literally, you can tell that it's frustrating me, because that comes across, and I start shouting at the camera, and I start arguing, and I start moaning and things like this, and it's because I am personally frustrated by bad rulebooks. It's a thing of mine. I was before I started editing rulebooks, which is probably why I started editing rulebooks. And the Spiel des Jahres nominations have just come out, and they've made references to bad rulebooks. So all of a sudden, social media is now all talking about this of, oh my God, it's a big thing. Yes, they're all saying it's a good thing, in that maybe the publishers that are continually putting out bad rulebooks will stop, listen to what's being said by the Spiel des Jahres committee, and go, oh, maybe we should spend more time and effort on our rulebooks. It's an interesting article. It's on Board Game Geek. Somebody will hopefully link it in the show notes if it's there. Some people have said they've gone overboard with it. That's fine. They obviously haven't listened to any of my podcasts where I've gone on a rant about it. In fact, Barry's in the chat. Barry, it was on your podcast with Kevin, the Berkey and Badger show, where I last remember going on a massive rant about it and then apologizing afterwards for basically just ranting for 20 minutes at the camera, but without trying to go into a rant again. What I find frustrating is you have new publishers who've never done a game before, who contact me for my professional rulebook writing and editing services and say, Paul, we're doing a game and we want the rulebook to be really good. And they pay me to edit their rulebook and make sure it's good before the Kickstarter campaign goes live, so that people who are viewing the game on Kickstarter actually read a good rulebook. They put in the time and effort to do that. New publishers. And then you've got existing publishers who've been going for years, who consistently put out bad rulebooks. And I'm not saying they should hire me, but they don't hire anybody. Or if they do, they're not hiring good people. I'm sorry. And they continually put out bad rulebooks. And that's frustrating, is the fact that the existing publishers, in my opinion, should be striving to get better to deliver a better service to the people who buy their games, to you and me who buy the games. Anyway, right. So yes, and Richard also wants to know my comments on the Spiel des Jahres, calling it out. I fully support it, and as anybody who watches any of my reviews knows, so every month I do 2 quick and dirty reviews. I always mention the rulebook, and again, I find it frustrating. Well, not frustrating, but I feel that the rulebook is a part of the game, and the graphic design is part of the game. And if I'm watching a review, I want them to tell me about the game. I don't want them to tell me, oh, the gameplay was good and this, that, and the other. If the rule book was terrible and they had to literally watch, 5 different videos and read 20 pages of FAQ before they were able to play, if that's what they did, I want them to mention that in the review. And if the rule book was good, I want them to mention that in the review. I want to know in a review what I'm getting with the game, and I want them to call out problems with it. And so many reviewers don't mention the rule. In fact, most reviewers don't mention the rule book in a review. Why would they? It's nothing to do with the game. For me, it is an important part of the game. So yeah, I'm very happy that the Spiel des Jahres, who are influential people, are making a point of saying it, which is really good. Right, one more question on the guild before I go back to the chat. From Scott, and I haven't read this yet. So, with all of the new releases that are easily lost in the shuffle, yeah, how many games is it a year now? 3,000 or 6,000? It's crazy. What games that have been released in the last few years do you think are evergreen titles? Now, the definition of an evergreen is it's always going to sell. The publisher can basically just keep printing one print run, then another print run, then another print run, because it will always sell. It's an evergreen. The difference of opinion comes because people are saying Gloomhaven's an evergreen. Well, it is at the moment, but will it be in 5 years' time? Who knows? Will Codenames still be an evergreen in 5 years' time? Yes. So I don't know what your definition of evergreen is. I don't know what my definition really is. How long does it have to consistently sell for it to be classed as evergreen? Ticket to Ride is evergreen, and that's been with us. Settlers of Catan, that's been with us 20 years. So I don't know. Anyway, which ones do I think are evergreen titles? Oh, I don't know. Whereas more and more games get released all the time, it's hard to say. Or if you think it might be easier to answer, what qualities do you think a game needs to have been evergreen? I don't know. It needs to be accessible, very, very accessible. Because if we take What's Your Game games, for example, What's Your Game games, Nippon, Madeira, all of those ones, fantastic games, love them to bits. Print run, 5,000, right? Codenames, 2.5 million, 3 million. Because the game has to be accessible to not the mass market, but it has to be accessible to a wider market. So your Ticket to Ride sold 4 million now, 5 million or something like that. I don't know, 10 million. I can't remember. But yes, it needs to be accessible. Right. Let's have a quick look back at the chat and see what we've got that's going on here. Right. Sam wants to know, what games are you working on right now? So this week, Pocket Farmer Rulebook, almost done. I would say it is done. I'm waiting for version 5 to be sent to me because version 5 had 4 little mistakes which needed fixing. So hopefully that's done. Pocket Sub Rulebook is on version 2 of the rulebook. That had quite a few significant changes. So I'm expecting to get version 3 tomorrow. And then there'll probably be another version of that. But both of those are almost done. This week I've finished Dice Settlers. Dice Settlers rulebook is done and has now gone to print. So that's finished. Today I was working on a game, Mysteria, from, can't remember. I was working on that today. I'm also working on the Founders of Gloomhaven video that I would have finished this week if it weren't for this urgent rulebook work that came in. Board and Dice contacted me and wanted me to do 5-minute chase. And that had a deadline of pretty much this weekend. And I'm like, well, I should be finishing the Founders of Gloomhaven video, but the Founders video can wait till next week. So I've done 5-minute chase this week. Yeah, so the Founders of Gloomhaven video, Escape Plan, I'm working on a lot. So I'm working on the rule book for Escape Plan. And last night saw the first play in the UK of that game. This is Vital Lacerda's new game. A lot of people are really excited about it, including me, because I love his games. And this one was something very different. All of his games are very different. This one was thematically and mechanically as well. It's still, it's obviously a Vital Lacerda game. You start playing it, and it's obviously one of his games because you have interwoven mechanics and you have all of these things going on, and it's really, there's so much stuff going on. I'm working on that. So I worked a lot on that yesterday. Then I ran a playtest session of that last night with a few people at my local club in Clumpton. And then I'm running another playtest session of it tomorrow. Well, it's not a playtest session. The game's finished, but we're testing to see if people are able to play from the rulebook. So I will be there with the rulebook, reading it out word for word. It's blind testing the rulebook. But rather than me sitting there in silence while they read it, I'm just going to read the rulebook out word for word. And anything they don't understand, I'll make a note of. So I'm working on Escape Plan at the moment as well. So they're the games that I'm currently working on. Right. What else have you got? Can you explain what you do when working on a rulebook? It really depends. Sometimes I will be sent a PDF of a rulebook to say, Paul, we're all done. This rulebook's going to print like in a week or tomorrow, whatever. Can you just give it a quick look? And if the budget that they give me is for a few hours work, then all I will do is I will quickly read through it, spot any typos or grammar mistakes if there is any at that point. And if there's any big problems with the rulebook, like I get to the end of it and I say, I've no idea how to play, I will feed that back to them. They then have a choice. Do they stop the print and do they go back and start doing editing, or do they just go ahead? Other times I will be writing the rulebook from scratch. So when I did Blight Chronicles, Agent Decker, because the previous rulebook that Board and Dice had sent me, they wrote it, they sent it to me, I read through it and went, sorry, it's all over the place. Every line needs rewriting, every paragraph needs rewriting, the wrong information is in the wrong place. I may as well just start again. So I opened a new document and then I started copying bits in. So for Blight Chronicles, they said, look, Paul, it'd be much easier if we just teach you how to play over Skype and then you write the rulebook from scratch. So that's what I did. It saved them a few days writing it themselves and then giving it to me when all I was going to do was start again with it anyway. So yeah, my involvement with rulebooks really depends. A lot of people think that I do a lot of work on the CGE rulebooks, and I don't. And I get quite a lot of credit because CGE rulebooks are fantastic. And that is not down to me. I am one small part of a big team of people. Jason Holt and Vlaja normally write them. And then there's a team of proofreaders and editors, which are all really good. And it's where I learn a lot of my skills is from watching what they do and using the online software tools to perfect my skills. So I am involved in the CGE rulebooks, but only little bits. I certainly don't have much say. I couldn't go into a CGE rulebook and say, I don't like this section being here. I think it should be there. I will say that if I feel that, but I don't have ultimate say on it. Whereas most of the rulebooks I work on, I am the primary editor. The publisher who I'm working with basically say to me, do what you want with it. So I like that because then, especially when my name's on the rulebook, when it comes out, I like to be confident with it. So yeah, I do not. So Blackpool is awesome tonight. Excellent. Go and see me mum and dad. Right. Thoughts on Riverboat from Richard. I haven't played it, I'm afraid. I wanted to play it, but it's in one of those games from last year that I just haven't played yet because I like Michael Kiesling games. So yeah, that's one of his. Gil wants to know any game expansion you're looking forward to play. I don't really play much expansions. As I mentioned earlier on when I was talking about Russian Railroads, I've got the 2 expansions for Russian Railroads, but they don't come out. Anytime I will play Russian Railroads, it will probably be with people who haven't played it before. So, I mean, the Gloomhaven expansion is coming out. There's a game that doesn't need an expansion because we've got 3 years of gameplay in the box, but of course there's an expansion. So am I excited about it? I should be. But because we haven't exhausted all of the content in the original Gloomhaven, far from it, it's not like I need it to revitalize. Great Western Trail, my favorite game from last year before, lost track. Anyway, that's got an expansion coming out. I should be excited about it. I am in a way, but I don't play the game enough now. I mean, I've played it like 10 times. I haven't played it recently. So you know, if I was to be continually playing it, yes, I'd be really looking forward to the expansion. But I love the base game. So yeah, right. What else have we got? Oh, let's do the competition again. For anybody just tuning in, hello everybody. If you want to enter the competition and be in with a chance of winning £25 worth of games vouchers from Games Law, you need to send me an email to paul.grogan@outlook.com. Excuse me, paul.grogan@outlook.com. While this show is going out live, if you are watching this show afterwards, you are more than welcome to send me an email, and people do. But if this email doesn't arrive before the end of the show today, you will not be in with a chance because I've already done the draw. Anyway, send me an email, and you need to write Claude the Cat. That's Claude the Cat right there. And that's CLAUDE, Claude the Cat. And if you are a Patreon supporter, please put that in the comments, and I'll do the draw probably when we get back from the pub tonight. Yes, we're going out for dinner because Vicky's going to get home late and we haven't got anything in. So yeah, we're going to the pub. Apparently they do beer and a pie for £10 or something or other. Anyway, right, let's have a look. Josh wants to know, if you played war games or were curmudgeon-y about playing old versions of new games, would you call yourself a grognard? Okay. If you played war games, right. Well, I grew up playing sort of war games. I really have a thing for hex and counter war games. I really haven't played enough of them. And I grew up playing Axis and Allies, which, you know, it's a war game, but I really wanted, when I was younger, I had a real desire to play these hex and counter war games, recreating, you know, World War II situations and things like that. And I never really did. And I think my time has passed now. I just, you know, I don't have the time to get into it. And I think a lot of these games require a lot of rules, and they're very complicated. So yeah, that's one of those. It's one of those things, right? Right. Let's that. Paul never has time. Yeah. How does City of Iron or Palaces of Mad King Ludwig? Right. I haven't played City of Iron. Palaces of Mad King Ludwig, I haven't played. I've played Castles of Mad King Ludwig, but not Palaces of Mad King Ludwig, I'm afraid. Tom's saying that he's on to Charterstone. Okay. We've not played Season 2 of Pandemic Legacy. Kind of not that bothered about playing it. We enjoyed Season 1, but more for the experience of getting together with a group. It started off, it was fantastic. Opening boxes is exciting. And then you get to the middle and you're like, and then we get to the end and we're like, we just most of us just want it to be over. At the end, it kind of fizzled out a bit. Season 2, don't know. Some people have said it's better. Some people have said it's not as good. Opening a box for me, I'm not going to buy a game just to open boxes. And I'm sure it's probably great if you get into it, but I don't know. Charterstone, we were really excited about Charterstone. I even had Jamie Stegmaier on my show a year and a half ago talking about it, really excited about it. Then the more and more I found out about it, went off it. It wasn't 24 scenarios anymore, it was 12 scenarios. And in fact, scenario 1 is just really a tutorial. So there's only really 11 scenarios. Each one takes about an hour and a half to play, from what I've heard. Oh, okay. And then what you're left with at the end is a kind of okay, lightish Euro game. Yeah, gorgeous artwork, and I'm sure the game's really nice. But, you know, when you've got limited time, you have to make decisions of what to play. Kind of went off it. Right, Alan, which complex game did you play this year that you know won't be played enough to explore all of the options? Gaia Project? I was trying to avoid playing Gaia Project because this year I've, through faults of my own, I've overloaded myself with so much work and so many games that I'm working on. Anytime somebody, like Feudum, all of my friends are now playing Feudum. I can't play it. I cannot give my brain the amount of time it would take to learn a heavy game like Feudum. Because right now I have to be 100% on Founders of Gloomhaven and know every tiny little aspect of that game because I'm doing the video for it. And Escape Plan, I'm writing the rulebook for Vital Lacerda's next new game, and I'm running playtest sessions of it. And today I had to write and do another rulebook for a game which I had to completely immerse myself in. And my brain is just completely overloaded with so many rules of so many different games. And then, you know, Pocket Sub version 3 will come back tomorrow and there'll be a question in it. And I'll be like, oh, right. And in order to answer that question, I need to have remembered every single rule of that game. So I'm kind of avoiding playing anything meaty and heavy right now. And I'd avoided playing Gaia Project, and I said, look, I haven't got the mental capacity for this. But in the end, I was persuaded to play it last month, I think. And thankfully, it's 90% like Terra Mystica, which I know, Terra Mystica. So I did play Gaia Project. I really enjoyed Gaia Project. I played one of the easy races. I'm not going to play Gaia Project enough to explore all of the possibilities with it. I mean, there's 14 different races, and there's so much going on, and you've got so much choice. Yeah, I'm not going to play that. But that's the case with a lot of games. Right, what else have we got? Any tips on structuring the rules for a complex rule-heavy game like for Escape Plan? Yeah, it's exactly the same approach as I have for every game. Start high level. I have a structure to all of my rule books. Flavor introduction. What's the game about? Set the scene. Then non-flavor introduction. So this is a game for 1 to 4 players where you will be doing this. This is what you do in the game. This is how you win. Then components list, itemized components list with pictures. Then setup. Then an overview of how the structure of the game plays. Is it divided into rounds or anything else? Then explain a bit more. Then you start diving into the detail. I'm a big fan of using call-out boxes as well. So call-out boxes sometimes in the rules. So in the Escape Plan rulebook, I explain about phase 2 is placing city tiles onto the board, and there's rules about how those tiles are placed on the board. So at that point in the rulebook, it's probably a good time to talk about the different types of land, because that's at the time when it's first relevant. So on that page, there's going to be a little call-out box saying land types. I use call-out boxes to not interrupt the flow of the actual rules, but to highlight, oh, this is a rule that applies to the whole game that you kind of need to know about, and I'm going to tell you about it here while I'm telling you about this other stuff. It's harder to do with heavy games, but I have the same process with all of them. Right, discussions about me being drunk. Last time I was drunk was, I don't know, 10 years ago. Right, what have we got now? Oof. Right, here we go. Right. I don't know what Barry's talking about. He's talking about the card quality being good, the minis being good, but never mentioned the writing of the rules. I don't know if you're speaking about a particular game or just what people talk about with reviews. Terraforming Mars as an evergreen title. Yeah, definitely. Good one, Brand. Yeah, Terraforming Mars, massively popular. Shame about the component quality, but you know, it's so popular and it's just selling out constantly. Clank has evergreen potential. Yeah. Azul might turn evergreen. Yeah. Spiel des Jahres winners. Is Azul been nominated? I think it has. So yeah, Spiel des Jahres winners would probably do it. Adam's here. Hello, Man of Stone. You're here with your gaming group and it's hot and sunny there. Perfect day to stay inside and play games. Absolutely. Don't play games outside. Bits fly everywhere. So hello to everybody around Adam's house. I don't know what you're playing tonight. Let us know. Right, Barry, are you the only one that doesn't see the magic in Azul? I've played it 3 times. I like it. I think it's very tactile and it's accessible and it looks pretty. And I know a number of non-gamers who are playing it and loving it. So it's definitely Spiel des Jahres material. And it also has that brutal edge where, oh, you take something that somebody else wants, which is, you know, a little bit of that in a game is quite good because it prepares people for future games which might do that in a little bit more of a brutal way. Right. Who else is in here? Rick's in here. Hello, Rick. You got date night tonight. We had date day last Sunday. Me and Vicky went to the tip, which is my idea of a good day out. Toxic, night off stuff and going out for dinner. Yeah, well, I'm going out for dinner because I need to eat. But then afterwards, I will be getting back and I don't actually know what I'm going to do. I got 5 hours sleep last night again. So after we've been to the pub, because I'm at the age that I'm at, I will have, especially if I have a pint as well, which I might do. I don't know. But if I do, I'll get back and I'll likely just fall asleep. So I probably won't get much work done tonight. Yeah, night off. Josh is explaining the joke of Grognard because my surname is Grogan. No, I get it. I thought you might have been hinting at that, but I wasn't 100% sure. So Travis is saying, agreed, same for Charterstone and Seafall. Seafall, well, that's another kettle of fish. I don't think you can put Seafall in the same category as Pandemic Season 1, 2, or Charterstone, in the Pandemic Season 1, 2, and Charterstone are probably good games and playable, and Seafall is not. And I'm saying that having not played it, but speaking to literally dozens and dozens of people who've tried playing it, most of whom said it was good when they started. And then just after 2 or 3 games of, oh, just how could they get it so wrong? Well, I know how they got it so wrong. You put Rob Davio's name on the box and they just assume it's going to be great, and it's not. Don't skimp on development work of games, no matter who the designer is. Do the development work, do the play testing, get the feedback from people. And if the feedback is this is really not good, but for all I know, they might have done that, and they may have got really good feedback. I don't know. Anyway, have I played City of Kings? Yes, I have played City of Kings. I'll tell you about it privately. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know. I saw your post on the Facebook group of you've played it and you're loving it and absolutely fine. I have a lot of opinions of City of Kings. I think it's a very unusual mix of the combat is so deterministic. I mean, Mage Knight is deterministic combat, and Mage Knight's my favorite game. But the combat in City of Kings is even more deterministic because you have 4 actions per turn. You don't have a hand of cards. You can literally decide exactly what you want to do. The combat is a puzzle. There's nothing else to describe it. It's a puzzle. And the way that the monsters attack doesn't work thematically at all. The monsters attack, but only in straight lines, and they attack up to a certain range. So they can hit you from 3 tiles away. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's a puzzle. That's what the combat is. It's a logic puzzle. And I don't mind logic puzzles. But it doesn't fit really that well in that game for me. And then the fact that the monsters come out in a seeded order. So I mean, I know you said you'd played the same scenario a number of times and it was different every time. It's different every time because of the random tile layout. The monsters are the same monsters. You will have monster 1, then monster 2, then monster 3. And I know they have different special abilities, but the stats on the monsters are the same every time in the order that they come out. And I didn't like that. I would have liked to see seeded monsters, to say, right, first of all, you go through the number 1 monsters, and then you go through the number 2 monsters. And within each group, it's random which ones come out in which order. Whereas in City of Kings, it's monster number 1, which has this, this, and this stat, and then monster number 2, which is this, this, this stat. So once we've played that scenario 3 times, we just know it. We know what monsters are going to come out in what order. The rest of the game, very, very random. The quests, very, very random. The resource gathering, very, very random. The equipment, very, very random. So it's a very weird mix of, you know, completely puzzle-like deterministic combat at one end, and then this huge randomness at the other end. Anyway, I'm happy to discuss more with you in details. There's lots and lots of things to like about the game, but there's also things about the game which don't really fit for me. Right, can you say how heavy Escape Plan is compared to Kanban and Lisboa? Yeah, it's absolutely okay to ask. I'm happy to give facts about the games that I'm working on. I can't really give you my opinions on it. Like, you know, for example, if I decided that Escape Plan was not a good game, I can't say that, right? I'm being paid to work on the rulebook, and I'll be doing the official rules video for the game. It's a commissioned piece of work. That's my job. That's what I'm doing. If I then go around and start saying that the game's not very good, well, I'm going to lose all work from those people in future. But also, if I say the game's absolutely fantastic, who's going to believe me? It's not right for me to say, give my personal opinions on games that I'm working on. But facts about the game, I can. It takes up to 5 players, which is unusual for a Vital Lacerda game. It plays in a shorter play time, I would say, based on the game that we played last night. 3 players with learning from the rule book, and we played it in about 2.5 hours, I think, although we were rushing at the end. Yeah, so it's not a particularly long game. Vital has said, like he always says, it's lighter than all of his other games. I never believe him. With this one, having now written the rulebook and then watched it being played from the rulebook, it is lighter. Okay, so I will go out on a limb and I'll say, yes, it is lighter. It's not light. It's still a heavy game, but it is lighter than his other ones. You know, every other game that I've played, Kanban, Lisboa, Gallerist, and everything like that, we were 2 or 3 games in. It took the first 2 games just to get our heads around the rules and what was going on. Last night, and I wasn't playing it, but the other 3 people that were playing it picked it up pretty quickly, and were going around and doing stuff, and they were enjoying it. Sure, they weren't able to connect all of the interlocking mechanisms because it's the first game, and some of the locations we didn't actually explain because we were limited on time. I didn't explain all of the rules. It was just like, right, where do you want to go? Oh, you want to go to a business, right? Let's explain how the businesses work. And we did it like that. So a couple of the locations never actually got used. But yes, it is a lighter game, but it's still heavy. The theme is very different. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that this is, in my opinion, the most thematic of all of his games. Now, Vital always says that all of his games are very, very thematic. You know, all of those little intricate rules within Lisboa, they are all in there for a thematic reason. But unless you know the history of Lisboa and how it all worked, you won't see the theme. You'll just see the mechanics. Because Escape Plan, the theme of it is you're all bank robbers, you've done a heist, and then somebody called the cops. The cops have locked down the city and trying to get out. It's a theme which we can all relate to because we're all, but you know what I mean? It's a thing which we all know, we all understand. And last night, so many of the things were in the game were like, okay, so I'm going to play this card. This is a fast card. This allows me to move 1 extra space, but my notoriety goes up. Well, that's because I've just used a fast car and sped through the city, so I've caused attention to myself. It's all in there. Every bit in the game seemed to fit thematically. It was really nice. When you visited the business twice, you've taken all of the money out, so they closed their doors because they got no money left. They've gone bankrupt because the people who've invested money in them have taken the money out. But what happens if you'd hid money in there? Well, you can still go there, but the location's locked, so you need a key. Right, well, that makes sense because it's locked, so you need a key. It all fit together, and it was all very thematic. Anyway, I've probably talked enough about that. Right, do you still have the squirrel costume? No, I don't. So the squirrel costume went with me to Essen Spiel last year, where I gave it to CGE, and I said, look, you should have people wearing this at the booth. It's funny for extra promotion. I didn't really want it. I didn't think I was going to wear it again. So CGE now have the squirrel costume. I don't know quite what they are doing with it. Coming stateside for any cons this year? Yes, Chad. Origins in June, Gen Con in August, and BGG Con in November. So I will be there for those 3 cons. If you want to come and say hello, I will be working for CGE at them, but I will be doing other things in the evenings. But yeah, I will be there working for CGE. So if you're there, pop by and say hello. Right, what else have we got? You got 3 choices tonight: Gloomhaven, Pandemic Legacy Season 2, or Anacron. I thought you weren't playing Gloomhaven, but if you are, then great. Right, Josh said, how do you put aside your desire to play games, learn about games, and instead dive headlong into your work on a day-to-day basis? Yeah, so what I was touching on, what I was saying earlier on, the last 4 or 5 months of me have been really bad in terms of workload, and I don't want to sit here and just complain about my workload because it's my fault. It's absolutely my fault. You know, I say, oh, I'm working a 70-hour week or an 80-hour week. Whose fault's that? Vicky said to me last week, said, whose fault is it? I said, well, it's not mine. He said, well, whose fault is it? Okay, it is mine. Because clients come to me and ask me to do work and I don't want to say no. And there are reasons why I have taken on a lot more work than I should have done. And I'm going to touch on this now live on air and try not to get choked up, but yeah, I don't think I can do. December and January were a very, very bad time for me personally. I said yes to a lot of work because I needed to fill my life with stuff to distract myself from all of the bad stuff that was going on. So I said yes to everything. And now for the 3 or 4 months since then, all of that work that I said yes to is all coming back and saying, oh, Paul, we spoke in January and you said you'd do this rule book for us. Here it is. And I look at it and I'm like, right, that's a week's work. I don't have a week, but I said yes. So I am now in the process of saying no a lot more, but this is one reason why the last few months have been bad. It's all down to me. And it's also existing clients. I like my existing clients. I like keeping them happy. And if they come to me with a rule book and I've done their last 3 rule books and then they come to me with another rule book, it would be unusual for me not to do their rule book, because some people now know Alley Cat Games, for example. I now do all the rule books for Alley Cat Games. And people know that. Ludi Creations, I do all of their rule books. Board and Dice, I do all of their rule books. So when they publish a game and they say, oh, Paul, we got another game. It's coming out. Can you do the rule book in the next month? I'm like, well, you're an existing client. I want to do the rule book for you. And it would be odd if I didn't. And people buy the game expecting that I've done the rule book. So I say yes to them. And unfortunately, I've not been able. There are a couple of those clients who I've mentioned, one in particular who I've not been able to do a rule book for. And I am trying my damnedest to fit that in sometime in June, if I can, because I want to. I really want to. Anyway, enough about my workload, and apologies for getting a little bit emotional there. Right, escape plan, the real reason you got rid of the car, worried about footprints. Yeah, it's very funny. Right, Deb said you need to teach how to play Feast for Odin, the only Euro you can't get your head around. I love Feast for Odin. I will more than happily teach you that. Let's do a Skype session one time, or something like that. Let's get a Skype session going where you set the game up and I will literally teach you how to play, you know, over Skype, because I love the game. I've taught it many, many times. I have a certain way of teaching it. So yeah, I'm more than happy to do that. Any news on the Mage Knight big box release timing? Not since I last spoke about it, which was last month when I said all of my work is now done, and that's it. So it's now with WizKids. I don't know about the release schedule at all. Mr. Spooky Thang wants to know, is the game formerly known as Sherlocked any closer to publication? It's not going to be called Sherlocked anymore. It's called Crime Lab. And unfortunately, for me anyway, because I think the game's fantastic, at the Czech Gaming event in March, that was one of the games which was at that weekend being tested, and based on all of the feedback from all of the people at Czech Gaming, it's not going to be published this year. There were 2 other games in a similar vein that were being tested that weekend. I will go so far as saying Crime Lab was my favorite of the 3, but I was in the minority. And the other 2 games that were being tested that weekend got a lot more positive feedback. So one of those is probably going to get published this year by CGE, which I can't say too much about. I don't even think it's going to be at UK Games Expo or not. So, and then there's another one which might be published this year and next year. So Crime Lab, as it's now called, has been pushed back to next year. But when it gets to next year, they will look at it again. I think it's fair to say that not everybody within CGE headquarters had the same love for the game that everybody did. And I was going back to them and saying, look, I've demoed this at HandyCon, AirCon, City of Games. I demoed it at 3 conventions and 90% of people loved it. And that for me, I would have thought would be enough for them to say, oh, okay, we should do it. But bearing in mind, I'm not the only person. There are other people within CGE demoing that game to other groups, and feedback they've had from some other groups was mostly negative, which is baffling when I've had 90% positive feedback or even higher. You know, I've had people coming back to me saying, we want to play it again because they loved it. Somebody said it was even better than Codenames. And I'm like, yeah, this game's great. And then you read this other report. Oh, I tested it at the weekend with 5, 6 different groups and nobody liked it. And I'm like, well, how were you testing it? How were you teaching them how to play? You know, I found that unusual. Anyway, so that's Sherlocked, now called Crime Lab. Currently not happening, I'm afraid. Right. What else have we got? Alan wants to know, given your job and your interest in game rules, should there be an award for clear rules each year? There is. It's a little known trophy that I didn't even know it existed, but then Alchemists won the award that year for the best rulebook, or it won the award next year. So every year at Essen, there is an award given out. It's like a little golden trophy for the best rulebook from a game from the previous year. And the only reason I know about it is Alchemists won that award. So yeah, every year there is an award for it, which is great. I can't remember what the award is called, but there is an award. Anyway, for those people just tuning in who want to join in the competition, if you are watching this live, and oh god, it's nearly 7 o'clock. Vicky will be home soon. And you are, yeah, if you're watching this live and you want to be in with a chance of winning £25 worth of game vouchers from Games Law, thank you very much for the sponsorship. Send me an email, paul.grogan@outlook.com. Claude the Cat is what you need to write in the email. And if you are a Patreon supporter, and thank you very much to my Patreon supporters, because without you, this video would not be possible. And a lot of my other content would not be possible if it weren't for my Patreon supporters. So if you're watching this and you want to consider supporting me on Patreon, please check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/gaming rules. But anyway, yeah, drop me an email and be in with a chance of winning £25 of game vouchers. And if you are a Patreon supporter, mention that in the email and I will enter you twice into the contest. Right, so what else have we got? Powerfade 11, do you have any involvement or information on Vital Lacerda's On Mars? Yes. I think it's fair to say, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, that Vital will want me involved in that game because he wants me involved in all of his games. So I know that, I mean, he's playtesting it tomorrow and Saturday. I know he's working on it, but right now, my focus is on Escape Plan. When Escape Plan is done and out the way, I'm not going to start work on Mars at all, but I'm pretty sure or confident that he will be asking me to be professionally involved in On Mars at some point. So yes, I can't say too much about it at the moment. Right, what else we got? Right, Crime Lab was better than Codenames on Mysterium. I hope it does come out eventually. Yeah, the thing is with Crime Lab, if it doesn't come out, right, if CG decide not to publish that game, I'm still going to play it. I've got a prototype. The game's great. I love it. So I've got a perfectly playable game. Sure, it's not as good as it would be if CGE did finish developing it, but it's still a perfectly playable game. Right, okay. Lucy is here as well. Hello, yes, and yeah, that game that we had of Sherlock was was fantastic. And I think it was you that gave the clue of beans as well for president, which was brilliant. Yeah, so the contest, Froback 72, you need to write Claude the Cat. That's CLAUDE the Cat, and that is Claude the Cat right there. And it's oh, and Paul's written it in the chat. So Facebook questions. No, you haven't missed the Facebook questions. I'm going to go and do them now. Here's the thing: I post on Facebook, and because I don't think people are going to turn up and watch me live. So, oh, and Caesar's messaging me. He wants me to do Pocket Farm. See, this is my life. I went to bed last night, and as I was going to bed, I had 2 clients sending me messages about things that I'm working on. It's when you work for yourself, it's knowing where to draw the line between personal time and work time. I haven't learned that, and I probably will never learn that, because if somebody sends me a message, I want to reply, but I'm not going to reply to him in the middle of my live Q&A. I am going to go to the Facebook questions. We'll get back to him later on. Oh, Vicky's going to be late. Oh, in fact, she's only just leaving work now, so she's not going to be home for another hour. So we've got plenty of time. Right, let's just have a drink. Martin Anderton. Hello, Martin. Martin wants to know, have you seen or playtested Root? No. There we go. I think I've heard of it. Is that the one that's done? Is that the sequel to... What was that game where there's a cave and it's asymmetric and one player's playing the cave and everybody else is... Is it the sequel to that, or is it by the same designer? Is that the one where there was all the controversy over it and the designer said that somebody's stolen my ideas or something like that? Yeah, so no, I haven't, but it is ringing a bell. The thing is, they may have even contacted me and asked me to do the rule book, because I'm saying no a lot at the moment to rulebook work. That might have been one that they asked me to have a look at. I can't remember. Too many games. Right, Martin also wants to know, what games are you most looking forward to at UK Games Expo? Right. I have no idea. I have no idea what's coming out at UK Games Expo. Again, not wanting to focus too much on how busy I am and how much work I do. I don't know. I have no idea. No, all right, I know one game that's coming out at UK Games Expo, and this is only because Tony Boydell reminded me of it. So I was at BGG Con last year, and Rick Strand, who used to work for Eagle Gryphon, so I knew him through that, and then he worked for Passport Games, and then he worked for somebody else. He's now set up his own company, and I can't remember what it's called, so I'm sorry, Rick. He's got a game coming out, and I can't even remember what the game's called. But it's a train game, and it's kind of like an 18xx game, but done as a Euro game with no map, no hexes or anything like that. But it has the elements of an 18xx game. And it's been published in the UK by Surprise Stare Games. So I posted and said, when Rick posted on Twitter about it, and I replied and said, oh yeah, great, I'm looking forward to that. When's it going to be out? Tony mentioned and said, oh yeah, Surprise Stare Games will have it at UK Games Expo. But that's it. That's all I know. Unfortunately, I haven't had any time to look at what's coming out for Expo. And even if I did, as I mentioned earlier on in this video, I will have no time at Expo at all to look around at anything that's coming out. So unfortunately, I don't know. And I'll just find out about it later on. Unfortunately, it's like that with me at Essen this year. I mean, I did my video log of, I did my podcast, pre-Essen podcast last year of what games are we all looking forward to at Essen. And the reason I did that is because I had absolutely no idea and I didn't have time to research it. So I got everybody else to tell me, and then I just picked some off that list. Whereas years ago, I would spend hours and hours and hours at my place of work browsing the BGG list, getting all of the rule books and doing all of that. Now, don't have time for any of that, I'm afraid. So yeah, I don't know what's coming out at Expo. Unfortunately, I know what's coming out. I know what CGE are going to have at Expo, which is the new version of Pictomania and the Adrenaline expansion. But we will also be demoing the other games as well. I think we've got 6 or 8 tables. So we will have all of the older games as well. On a scale of 1 to awesome, how good is Escape Plan? I'm not going to say Scott. Right, Mick. Lanky Gamer, have a collection of 1,000 games, and you have been wondering if it's possible to monetize them. Do you think that a mail order board game lending library is a viable business idea? It's a very good question, and you are the 3rd person in the last 12 months that has asked me that. And my answer will be no, it's not, because it's been tried. It's been tried twice before by other people, and it's failed both times. Setting up a board game library in the UK where you can rent games. It didn't work. Both business models failed. It's just not viable. The cost of postage, the damage to the games, the fact that they come back with a missing component, yeah, it doesn't work, I'm afraid. So if you have 1,000+ games, then if you need some money from them, then you're going to start culling, I'm afraid. I mean, 1,000 games, that's, if you played 3 games a day, every day for a year, that would be those 1,000 games. I mean, I don't have the time to play all of the games that I want to play. Right, so yeah, Scott wants to know, although I can't say how good Escape Plan is it a Euro or not? Yes, it is. As I say, it's very similar in a way to his other games in terms of where it sits on the Euro to Ameritrash scale. It's very much a Euro. There's a number of interlocking mechanisms. There's complex decisions to make, but it is lighter than his other games. But yeah, it's definitely a Euro. I'm not saying it's completely 100% non-random. There are some random parts in it. For example, the lockers. When you go to the convenience store and you open a locker, there's a pile of tiles, And within those tiles, you know exactly what's in there. One of them is a 0. Some of them have got some money in, and some of them have got a lot of money in. And then depending on certain conditions, how many contract cards you've got, contact cards, and how many, and your notoriety. No, it's the contract cards. The number of contract cards you've got tells you how many tiles you look at from that pile, and then you choose one of them, right? So as long as you're looking at more than one, you will never get the 0. But you might get the $100,000, you might get the $80,000 if you're only looking at 2. So the more you're looking at, the more chance you've got of finding the big ones. So it's a little bit of a random factor, but you know, it's okay. Of the publishers you are involved with, this is a question from Chris Mack. Of the publishers you are involved with, what is your of the publishers you are not involved with, what is your most anticipated game that is due to land this quarter? It's the same answer, I'm afraid. I've no idea. I don't know what's coming out. Obviously, I'm on social media quite a lot, and I see a lot of talk about games that have just come out, and you know, everybody's talking about The Mind, and everybody's talking about this and that and the other. I honestly don't know what's coming out this quarter. If you were to throw the name of a game in the chat, and I'd go, oh yeah, that's coming out, then I'll be excited about it. But right now, I couldn't possibly tell you. Right. Flying Lemur Games, that's it. Thank you very much, Nella. And North American Railways is the name of the game. So yes, North American Railways. Surprised they're publishing it in the UK. I didn't play it, but I watched it being played. In fact, that's where I met you for the first time, isn't it? Yeah, BGG Con. And yeah, Flying Lemur Games, and I haven't played it, but when Rick was describing it, it looked fantastic and it sounded fantastic. So yeah, I am very keen on that one. Right, and that is a publisher I'm not working with, and is it a game that's coming out in this quarter? So there you go. That one. It is by default the only one that I'm the one that I'm going to say I'm most looking forward to, because it's the only one on the list. If I had a £25 game voucher, what would I spend it on from Games Law? Great question. Yeah, maybe I should enter my own contest. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. You know, it's fair to say that somebody in my position, I do get given a lot of games because I do reviews, or I'm working with them, or whatever reason. So I don't buy that many games myself. I would have to have a look and see on there what I wanted. Possibly Automobiles. Yeah, played that recently and quite liked it, and I would like to have that in my collection, I think. So yeah, I'd possibly put that towards Automobiles. Or no, Edge of Darkness isn't out yet. Yeah, I don't know. Right, Budge Wilson wants to know. He says, I'm sure this was you, Paul, but he made me mistaken. A few years back, when 504 came out, I decided that I was going to try as many of the variants as possible. And yes, that was me. So when 504 came out, and a lot of people were absolutely slating it, saying it's absolutely terrible, I was like, no, it's not terrible. It's a genius game design. It's just such a crazy, wacky idea. For those who don't know, have a look at it. 504. It's quite expensive. It was like 60, 70 euros, but for the amount of components that you get in the box, I thought it was a reasonable price. And the components were all pretty good as well. The game has 504 different games within one game. You basically choose module 1, module 2, and module 3. There's 9 different modules. You can't have the same module twice. And the combination of those modules makes a game. So 1, 2, 3 will be a different game from 1, 3, 2. And will be a different game from 3, 2, 1. And be a different game from 7, 5, 2, whatever. So there's 504 combinations of games. It was an astonishing piece of work. And a number of those games were actually pretty good. Now, it's a completely abstract game, right? There's no theme to it whatsoever. It's just a completely abstract game. I have no problem with that. And I played probably about 11 or 12 different combinations of worlds. And some of them were good. Some of them were just, but they were fairly light in the end. The complexity was in the learning how to play the game and how the different modules fit together, because the rulebook was just a nightmare. It's like, oh, well, this works here, but if you're playing with that module in this position, then this doesn't work like that. And it was just, And in the end, I stopped playing it because the amount of effort that it took to work out what the rules were for a particular game, bearing in mind that game wasn't particularly heavy in itself and only took about an hour and a half to play, it just wasn't worth it. And I did play a couple of the modules which just didn't work at all. I mean, they worked as games, but they didn't really work at all. So yeah, in the end, it kind of fizzled out. I'm glad I've got a copy. It's, as I say, it's a genius, crazy idea of a game, and full respect to the designer for doing it. And I got a lot of good plays out of it. Right, okay, what else have we got on the Facebook group before I go back to the chat? I think that might be it. So I think that's it for the Facebook questions. If I've missed any and you are watching this, please post them in the chat here. But I will now go back to the chat and see what we've got. Right. So my friend Costas the Mad Greek, he wants to know where you were born. So I was born in Blackpool. I still have a bit of a northern accent, which is in the northwest of England. I lived there until I was 27, and then I moved out. And yeah, I left home when I was 27. When I moved out, I was a bit of a late starter on all of that sort of thing. Moved to Coventry for a year, where I worked in Solihull, and then I moved to Hertfordshire, where I lived for 7 years. Then I moved to Somerset for 2 years, and then I've been down in Devon for the last 9, I think. So yeah, originally born in Blackpool in Lancashire, in the northwest of England. Right, asymmetric cave game is called Vast. That was it, Vast. Right, what else have we got? Any Kickstarter games currently live that have caught your notice? Unfortunately, my answer to that is going to be the same as many of the other answers, I'm afraid, which is I don't know. You know, again, I see social media going crazy all the time for Kickstarter games, and I don't have the time to look into them. And a lot of them tend to be miniature heavy games or bling or artwork or whatever. And I'm not really interested in that. I want good solid games. The bling is like, it's an optional extra. So yeah, I have no idea. Well, as I say, to say I have no idea what's going on Kickstarter right now is a lie. I do know what's going on Kickstarter. Somebody today was talking about Confrontation, some game that's really, really expensive, contains loads of miniatures, and has apparently lost 200,000 within the last day or something like that. So I'm aware of that. I have no interest in it whatsoever. I think Hellboy's on Kickstarter. I've no interest in that because it's just minis. So yeah, there's a lot of games on Kickstarter right now. Not to mention the ones that I'm working on. I mean, Blight Chronicles was on Kickstarter. That's just finished today, so I'm aware of that. Right, Andy's got to go. Thank you very much, Andy, for watching. Rick, online gaming. Should more games be available to play online as a digital version? There's a lot. Should more? I mean, I think there's already a lot. So for me to say, should there be more? I think there's already enough. Of course, it'd be great if there was more, because your favorite game might not be online. So you might not be able to play it online. But I think with Boy de Jeu, with Yucata, with people who are using Tabletopia or Tabletop Simulator, or what's the other big one that I use? Board Game Arena. With all of those and the amount of different games that are available on them, you should be, and then there's iPad games with asynchronous play. There's plenty of games. So should there be more? I think if there wasn't more, it wouldn't be a problem. I mean, there's more and more coming out all the time. Have you played a coin series games from GMT? Yes, I played one once because I wanted to play a coin series game. Which one was it? The Vietnam one. Yeah, I played it once, and I am now happy that I have played a coin series game. Would I play another one? Probably not. Even though I really, really liked the game and I liked the game system. But why wouldn't I play it again? Because it requires an investment. It requires an investment of time, effort, and energy to learn not only your particular faction, race, whatever, but also learn all of the others. So the one we played, the Vietnam one, Fire in the Lake, I think it is. I played the Viet Cong, I think. So I was doing my thing and I was building up cubes and I was doing that. And then the Americans came along and carpet bombed me. And I lost all my cubes. All right. Well, I didn't know you could carpet bomb me because I was learning the game. and we didn't have time to go through every single, you know, faction and every single aspect of every single one. So we learned. Now, if I played that again, I would know, the Americans can carpet bomb, so don't put all of your cubes in one place. But then there would be something else. And games that require that amount of time and effort to put into it in order to be able to not get caught out. I don't mind games like Great Western Trail, where it takes you or Vital Lacerda games, where it will take you a number of games before you can understand the strategy and do well. I don't mind that. But games where you really have to know what your thing does and how that plays and how all of the other ones play in order to really be able to play the game properly, I don't have the time, I'm afraid, for that. Any non-rulebook books you're currently reading for pleasure? So good question, Josh. I haven't read a book now, an actual book, must be 4 years. I'm reading the Assassin trilogy from Robin Hobb. And since the introduction of iPads, I go to bed with the iPad now, and I will play an online game, or I'll read some forums, or I'll do something. The iPads have unfortunately replaced physical reading of books for me, and it all happened about the same time when I launched Gaming Rules. And as I say, it's the work. I'm always working, and I'm quite often working in the evening. And for the last 3 years, I haven't really given myself any time to do something I want. The idea of saying, oh, take 2 hours off and go and sit outside and read a book, that it's so far gone from my lifestyle now that going back into it would be tricky. You know, I'd go outside and play something on the iPad for a couple of hours, or I'd read something else. So, and Vicky bugs me all the time because I'm about 2/3 of the way through the last book in the trilogy. Why am I not finishing it? I've pretty much reached a point where it would be unusual for me now to finish it. I was trying to find the audiobooks so that I could at least finish the story. But anyway, that's that one. Current TV show. We started watching Stranger Things, finally. So we finished Walking Dead season 8. And I've been wanting to watch Stranger Things since it was on, and since everybody has been telling me I need to watch it. So I basically said to Vicky, we're watching Stranger Things next. And we watched episode 1 on Tuesday night. Yeah. And we'll be that is now what we're watching. Season 1 is only 8 episodes long. So we'll be watching the rest of Stranger Things. Yeah, I've only watched episode 1. So I mean, based on what everybody was saying about it, I pretty much knew it was going to be my kind of thing. And yeah, I've only watched episode 1, but it's been good so far. We'll see how it goes. The one thing that it bugged me a little bit, I didn't get angry about it before you're thinking anything. They're all sitting around playing D&D, right? And it's great. They're playing D&D, and that's what kids did of that age in the 80s, and it was done really well. And I like the fact that they've put D&D in a game. But if you're going to put D&D in a game, do it properly. Do just a little bit of research so that what actually is in the script actually is how you play D&D. And he was like, oh, I'm going to cast a fireball. Oh, I need to roll a 13. And I said to Vicky, you don't roll D20 when you cast fireball. It does X D6 damage, where X is the level of your wizard. And so, and that's the weird thing, you know, they go to the effort of having it in there, but then they get the script written that doesn't actually match how the game's being played. And for somebody like me who knows how you play D&D, it's like, well, why didn't you do that? They could have just said, it could have been so easy to say, oh, make a saving throw versus paralysis. You need a 13. They could have done exactly the same thing, but they could have done it and made it accurate instead. Anyway, yeah, so I started watching Stranger Things. The Assassin's trilogy, yes, yeah, it is good. As I just haven't finished it. Did you read the Life Ship and the Rain Wild series too? So, oh, that's not a question to me. That's a question to Raphael. Vicky's read them. She's a big fan of Robin Hobb, and they are all there. So, Debs, if you could take a break and go on holiday anywhere in the world, where would you go? Now, me and holidays. Last holiday I had was 4 years ago. We went to Egypt, and after that, I grew up always wanting to go to Egypt. I have a thing about the pyramids, and wanting to go to them and wanting to see them and be inside them was like a thing that I just always wanted to do. So eventually, we went to Egypt. We did a Nile cruise for a week, and then we did a few days in Cairo. And for those people who don't know, I suffer a lot from stress and anxiety and various things like that. And going on a holiday is one of the most stressful experiences. Everything about the whole process, deciding where to go, deciding when to book, or the booking process. Me and Vicky are not good at making decisions. Making decisions is one of the things that causes my anxiety. And which is why a lot of things in my life don't get done, and I procrastinate a lot because it involves making a decision and I can't make a decision. So going on a holiday means lots and lots and lots of little decisions. And then when we get there, any little thing that goes wrong, the hotel's not right, or something's not right, or something's not quite this, and I'm like, we've spent thousands of pounds on this, and then this has gone wrong, and that's gone wrong, and then we've got to do that, and then we get back and there's been a problem with this, and it's just, the whole thing is just a massive stressful experience. And does the good feeling of going away on holiday outweigh that? For me, no. Which is why we haven't had a holiday in 4 years. Right now, I could not justify taking a holiday when there are house jobs that should have been done 3 or 4 years ago that have been waiting to be done. What I would like to do is I would like to take a week off work and do those jobs. Our hallway has needed painting for 4 years. We haven't done it because we just haven't had the time. We finally got around to painting the front room that we meant to do 8 years ago. And we finally did that last year. So I would like to take a week off work and I would just stay at home and I would do all of those jobs, because if the whole point of going on holiday is to relax and make you feel better, then that's what would make me feel better, is getting some of those jobs done. Putting shelves up in this wardrobe, in this room. This wardrobe is filled with crap and it's a mess. If we just put shelves in it, it would be far more organized, but just don't have time to do it. If we're talking about holidays and going to parts of the world that I want to see, Tokyo, I want to go to Japan. I really want to go to Japan. It's just so vastly different. And I just want to, and people who I know who've been there, I know Rick's been there 3 times, and other people who've been there. And one of my recent Patreon supporters is an Indian guy, but lives in Japan. So, you know, I'd love to go to Japan. It's just so different. Definitely like to go there. I would like to go to South America. I'd like to go to places like Machu Picchu. I've got a thing for ancient civilizations, which is hence why the pyramids. Angkor Wat, which is in Vietnam, I think. I'd kind of like to go to Antarctic and see some penguins. Yeah, there's a few places that I would like to go to that are on my bucket list eventually. So yeah, right. Next question, since we're going to be here for a while, because Vicky's not going to be home for a while. Any update on the transatlantic rulebook being posted by the publisher? No, I'm still annoyed about it. So in the last few weeks, a number of people have been in contact with me and said, Paul, a little bird tells me you've got a new version of the transatlantic rulebook. Will you send it to me? Why? I should have deleted that file. It's a working file that I've kept on my computer with all of my notes in, that was sent to the publisher back in December. I mean, if you want to know how I feel about the transatlantic, go and watch my review. But in summary, a few people got together and helped them out. And I did it as a, what's it when you work for free? Can't remember. That thing where you do a job for free. Anyway, I did it because I wanted to help them out. And we did a new rulebook together. And we are now in May, 5 months on, and they haven't put that file on Board Game Geek. So I'm very sorry to, and the worry that I had with my transatlantic review is essentially I was calling out a publisher for bad practices. And speaking as somebody who works in the industry, I felt that that was a line that I shouldn't cross, but I did cross it. And I got so much support afterwards for crossing it that I feel justified. And I'm going to say it again. If you are a board game publisher and you do a rule book that's terrible, and then somebody helps you out, whether it's me or somebody else, and they help you out and they spend hours and hours of their time in doing a new rule book, and you do it and you've got the rule book, put it online, put it on your website, put it on Board Game Geek. You owe that to the people who are buying your games. You are in business because people buy your games. You need to show them, you need to support that game, and you need to show them that you care as a publisher. And it's really frustrating to find that they are not putting it on there. And I don't know why. And if there is a valid reason why, then I will eat my words. But right now, there is pages of questions on Board Game Geek. There's so many people saying the rulebook's terrible, yet silence. Right, Josh wants to know, what software do you use for editing rulebooks? We will be talking about that in great detail in a couple of weeks' time when I sit down with you and go through the process. But essentially, it's Google Docs. It's Google Docs for the win. So start with Google Docs. It is the best collaborative working tool that there is. Start in Google Docs. Then when it goes to PDF stage, there are a few different tips and tricks that I will share with you when we go through that in more detail. Is it possible to find jobs in the board game industry, or is there a lot of competition? It's a very good question. Is it possible to find jobs in the board gaming industry? Yes, it is. I have a job in the board game industry, which I effectively created myself, sort of. I have a few other friends who work in the board game industry. And I'm not talking about publishers who I have become friends with because I'm now doing work for them. I am talking about friends that I have had before who didn't work in the industry, who now do work in the industry. And there are a number of them. Because as the industry is growing, people need jobs. Businesses need jobs. So if you believe that you have some skills that you would think a publisher would find useful, just start approaching them. Just contact them and say, look, I don't know if you're interested, but I believe that I have this to offer. This is my background. These are my credentials. And I would be happy to do some work for you if you needed it. Pick the publishers that you like. Pick the publishers who do games that you like, or and just contact them and see where you are. Is there a lot of competition out there? Yes. You can bet your bottom dollar, if that's a phrase, that these publishers probably get dozens of people contacting them and saying, oh, I want to work for you. Oh, I want to do, and a lot of people think it might be easy. Oh, well, Paul Grogan's done it. Paul Grogan's working full time in the industry and he's turning down work. It must be dead easy. It's not. I've been in the board game industry for a long, long time. I've been going to Essen for 18 years. I've been a part of the board game industry years before Gaming Rules was formed. I was doing lots and lots of little bits in the background in the industry for a long time before it, years before it. And I was not, at the time, I wasn't laying the groundwork for what I'm doing now. I was just doing it because I'm passionate about what I want to do. I was the guy creating player aids on BGG. I was the guy creating FAQ for games which had terrible rule books. I was doing all of this because I wanted to do it. I wanted to support the games and the community. I wasn't doing it for any financial reward or any, getting people to notice me or anything like that. But in the end, what it did do is it did lay the groundwork. So when it came the time when I started doing some work in the industry, it was like, and it's like the Rolling Stone thing. I could now, if I wanted to, I could go to a publisher who I really wanted to work with and say, I'm a games developer. Here are my credentials. These are the games that I've worked on as a developer. Would you be interested in hiring me? And that would have a lot more chance, for example, than Joe Public that nobody's ever heard of, who's not got his name anywhere on any game, saying, I'm a games developer, I'd like to do something. So the more and more you get into it, the more and more you do get noticed. So it is hard to do it, but you got to start somewhere. So if you want to do it, try it. And I'm more than happy to talk to you in private about how you might word emails or anything like that. Pro bono, that's it. Thank you very much. That's the phrase I was looking at. Have you bought a new computer yet? No. And we'll go back to what I was saying earlier on about my problem with making decisions and it causing anxiety. Thank you very much to all of the people on my Slack channel who have helped me out with me buying a new computer. I need to buy a new computer. And they've really helped me out. And they've even spec'd out 2 or 3 different specs. And it's at the point where I need to make a decision. And at that point, I get anxious and I step away from it. And I've not been back to it now for 3 days. I need somebody to come round, sit me down, literally duct tape me to the chair and say, Paul, make a decision. As soon as I've made that decision, I will feel much better. And then it's done. And then I get a new computer and suddenly everything's better. And this is one of the things which I can't seem to get my brain to work around. And those people who also suffer from this as well will know that logic doesn't have any bearing on this decision. Logically, the sooner I make this decision, the better things will be. That's obvious, right? The sooner I make that decision, the PC arrives. Then the sooner I build the PC, Vicky can have my old PC, which means Vicky will then be able to play the computer games that she wants to play better than she's able to play them at the moment. Because at the moment, her computer is running so slow, she's trying to play World of Warcraft and it's just really, really slow. So the sooner I get my PC, the sooner she gets my old PC, and the sooner she's happier, doesn't help. I've got a decision to make and I'm worried about making the wrong decision. And I know there's no wrong decision, but anyway, yeah, so I haven't bought my new PC yet. Jerome is here. Hello, Jerome. Just checking in. Right, so yeah, for those people who are watching who don't know how to enter the contest, because it's been a while since I've mentioned it, you need to send me an email and email me at paul.grogan@outlook.com, but only email me while this show is going out live. Don't email me if you're watching this afterwards. So paul.grogan@outlook.com. In the body of the email, put Claude the cat. I'll put it in the chat window here. Oh no, I've got to sign in. So Claude the cat. Claude the cat. Right, that's Claude the cat there. So put that in the body of the email. Send it to my email address, which is paul.grogan@outlook.com. If you are a Patreon supporter, then thank you very much, and put that in the email as well, and you'll get 2 entries into the contest. And one lucky winner will win £25 worth of games vouchers from Games Law in the UK. Thank you very much to Games Law for the sponsorship. Right. Paul Bryan. Paul hasn't always worked in the games industry. He worked in IT as well. So many people worked in IT. Right. As a 4-month Patreon supporter, can you send that transatlantic file to me? Of course, I will send it to you. Just drop me a quick message on the Slack channel if you're on the Slack channel. If you're not on the Slack channel, get on the Slack channel. It's great. We talk about the weather all the time, and people help me with rule books as well. They're doing my job for me. Fantastic. Yeah, or drop me an email or something like that. I will happily send the file to you. Right. What have we got? So, Debs, you often get referred to as a rules lawyer when playing games. Given that rules are your thing, do you agree that the rules don't always matter as long as everyone's having fun? No. The rules do matter. Right. So, and I've said this a number of times before. You know, when you're sat there, maybe at a convention or in a shop or a cafe or something like that, and you're playing a game, and some random person comes up to you and says, excuse me, but I can't help overhearing, but you're playing a rule wrong, right? That's me. My need to have people playing a game by the correct rules overrides anything. It overrides me looking like a complete dick in front of everybody, okay? And I don't care. It's more important that random group of strangers who I don't know, who I'm never going to see again, it's more important to me that they are playing that game by the correct rules than what they think of me. That's just one of my personality traits, a driving force. Because I don't know how it works, but when I'm in a room and there's 3 games going on, I somehow am able to listen in. So I'll be in the middle of a game, I'll be in the middle of an explanation of something, and I'll hear an incorrect rule being said there. And as soon as I finish that, I'll go over. I suppose some people might think it's a great personality trait, but it has caused problems in the past. And there's a number of people who go, who's that dick? So yes, for me, a game needs to be played by the correct rules, unless of course you're playing it with house rules, which need to be agreed upon beforehand. So yeah, you know, it depends on your definition. I have fun when doing things correctly. I don't like getting to the end of a game and suddenly find you've been playing by the wrong rules. It's like, don't like that. Right. Jason, you left the E off the end of Claude. Should you resend it? Nope, that's fine. It's near enough. What should be the subject of the email? Feel free. Feel free to put whatever subject you want. Probably something like contest entry or something like that. I don't know. Right, Mark Tattersall. Thank you very much for joining us, Mark. Card sleeves, a good or bad idea? You clearly don't know me very well. Card sleeves all the time. Card sleeves have a bad name. And this is a discussion which has gone on dozens of Facebook threads for the last 4 years, where people go, oh, card sleeves, yes or no? And you get so many people going, oh, I hate card sleeves. They make it awful. They're rubbish. Now, one of the problems with that is there are good card sleeves and there are bad card sleeves. And there is nothing worse than bad card sleeves. Cheap, flimsy, penny sleeves that are crinkly and they stick together. They're awful. And anybody who buys those sleeves has every right to say the sleeves are awful. But if you buy good quality sleeves, so the Mayday premium ones, although they have size differences, Ultra Pro, but they have the hologram, Fantasy Flight are good, Swan Panacea are good. If you buy a good quality sleeve and you buy the premium ones that are thick, then they're great. When you first buy them, they are very slippy, so you'll have a deck of cards and it'll be very slippy slidey. But I love sleeves. I don't like games where you are shuffling cards a lot to not have sleeves. So, or where you're handling the cards a lot. So in Gloomhaven, we've sleeved the character cards, even though you never shuffle them, you're holding them a lot. So I've protected those cards because I like looking after my games. I know games are supposed to be played and I want to play them, but I don't want to play them and in 5 years' time find that all the edges are all battered and you can, I like looking after the things that I own. One of my other personality traits is I can't deal with loss. And that applies not just to people dying, but it applies to things wearing out. I want to buy something and I want to keep it forever. And I don't like the fact that things wear out. You know, whenever my slippers start getting worn out, I go for another 1.5 years before throwing them away and getting a new pair because I can't accept the fact that I bought them, paid money for them, and they wear out. I'm getting used to it. I'm starting to get a little bit better about those things. But basically, I like looking after the things that I own, and I hate damage to come to the things that I own. So yeah, sleeves, definitely, but buy the good ones. Only the good ones. Right. Jerome, didn't even know there was a contest. You've got mail. What's the prize anyway? £25 worth of game vouchers. So every month, Games Law sponsor this contest, and they basically give £25 away to one lucky winner. So yeah, that's what happens. Right, John, if it's an RPG, a rules lawyer as a player can be a bad thing, but not in a board game. Yeah, very, very good point. Board games, for me, you have to play by the rules, right? If a rule is in there that says you get 3 points if you do this, that's the rules. That's what you've got to do. Role-playing games are slightly different, but, and I don't have time to go into, I've been playing D&D since I was 13. I haven't played it for the last 9 years, but I was a D&D player through and through, twice a week, every week for 25 years of my life. So I know role-playing games and I've played lots of them. I'm a very experienced role-playing games type person. And there are so many different ways of playing role-playing games. The last role-playing game I played was Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 edition, and we played it by the rules. And some people will disagree with that. And this is what we'll talk about at length some other time. But you can play any role-playing game, no matter what the system is, at two extremes. I have seen people playing D&D and not playing by the rules. They've been playing it as a storytelling game, using some of the D&D stuff as the background. And I have seen other people playing D&D as playing absolutely 100% by the letter of the rules. And that's what I did last time I played D&D. If you get +2 advantage bonus for standing on a chair, then I'm going to give you a +2 advantage bonus for standing on a chair. That's the rules. It's written black and white, so I'm going to do it. And certain game systems lend themselves better. D&D, because there are so many rules in there and the rules are very specific and very defined, they lend themselves to that crunchy style of playing. That game system doesn't lend itself to the more generic storytelling type of game. But there are other game systems out there that absolutely lend themselves to the storytelling one and don't get bogged down with all of the rules. So it really depends. So yeah, so when I played D&D 3.5, I played it exactly like I play board games now. I play it by the letter of the rules. Right, Susie, you have to decide. You and Debs are secretly the same. Yes. Mark, is theme important to you, or is it all about mechanisms? So another very good question, and I have spoken about this in a number of places. So I'm not a big fan of abstract games, right? I play abstract games, and there are some abstract games that I really enjoy, like Ingenious by Reiner Knizia and things like that. And there are other games which there is a theme to it, but actually there's no theme at all. There's a setting, but it's a completely abstract game. So it's not important to me. It doesn't make I'm a mechanics whore. I play a game for the mechanics. Great Western Trail could be about space dinosaurs for all I care. And if it was exactly the same game, but with a totally different setting, I would still like the game as much as I like it now. I do not like the game more because it's collecting cows and selling cows to Kansas. That makes no difference to me whatsoever. Okay. But let's go back to Escape Plan that we talked about earlier on, Vital Lacerda's new game. You could, if you really wanted to, completely strip all of the theme away from Escape Plan, right? And instead of it being the clinic, and when you go to the clinic, you heal a wound, it could be when you go to a red building, you move one of those cubes from that box to that box. And don't call it the clinic, and don't call them wounds. You could literally, if you wanted to, remove every little bit of theme from the game and just have it purely mechanical of moving things around. Would it work? No, because it's way too complex to be a purely abstract game. Would it be the same game mechanically? Yes. Would I enjoy playing it? No, because the game is cool, because you can play your fast car and steam around the city, and then you can use a key to open a lockbox, and you can do all of this, and you can avoid the cops by wearing a disguise and things like that. When the theme is integrated into the mechanics, that's when you've got a hit. So there's a big difference between setting and theme. The setting is just where the game is set, and the theme is where the actual mechanics of the game fit with the theme. Does what you're doing mechanically actually represent what would happen if this was a real thing? So there's a big difference between theme and setting. Theme's great. It's not essential to me. I still enjoy a game if it has no theme, but if it has theme, then great. But the purely thematic games, Mansions of Madness 2nd edition, for example, one of the most thematic games there is, absolutely awful game. Completely terrible game. 99% random, totally devoid of any meaningful player decisions. The app is painfully slow. The puzzles are all the same. It's just an awful, awful game. But if you want an immersive experience that's very thematic, sure, go ahead, play that. Anyway, what's the most egregious, I can never pronounce that word, rules mistake you've encountered? What you mean? You might have to, I might have to answer your answer with a question. Do you mean what game have I played where I've made a massive mistake? Or what rules mistake I've seen other people making? Because I've made some massive mistakes in games before. I remember Imperial, the Mike Gertz game, Imperial. I remember playing that, and we played that for months. We must have played it about 5-6 times. Fantastic game, loved it. And then I was hosting Paul's Post Essen Games Weekend, probably about, I don't know, 11 years ago or something. And Tim from Newcastle came down, an old friend of mine. And he came down and he was playing Britain and he put a taxation marker in the C zones. And he was like, I know you can't do that. He says, yes, you can. I said, no, you can't. He says, yes, you can. I got the rule book out. I went, oh, wow. I'd have been playing Imperial completely wrong. I was playing it not tax zones. How had we been playing it so many times with such a fundamental rule wrong? But we did. So, yeah, and I've never forgotten that because it was such an embarrassing mistake. And there's other games that I've played as well where I've made a Great Western Trail. The first time I played Great Western Trail, I was taught it and I was taught correctly and I played it and it was absolutely fantastic. And then the second time I played it, I didn't read the rule book because I thought I was taught it. I was taught well. I know how to play, so I'll now teach other people how to play. And we missed the rule that when you take one of the station master tiles, you have to put a worker on that space. I forgot that. So I taught it and we played it and the game was great. And then we played it again and the game was great. And then we played it again. And after 4 times of playing it, we were like, these station master tiles are a bit powerful, aren't they? Oh, you get them early and they're really good. And then suddenly I noticed in the rulebook that there was this important note that said, when you take a station master tile, you must leave a worker behind. And I was like, oh my God. So yeah, that's the biggest mistake I've made in a game recently. The thing is, the game still worked. It was completely unbalanced. But the game still worked and we still enjoyed it. But yeah, won't play that wrong. Sleevers Anonymous, yes. And you use Mayday premiums as well. So yeah, Mayday premiums are good, but Mayday have the issue of size differences, sometimes even within the same pack. And that's a problem. I remember buying some Mayday premiums and then within that pack, there were some that were wider than others. And it just means when you, I don't know, it's a real pain. So the only problem you have with sleeves is the glare. Yeah, I know what you mean. And I can't film videos with sleeves because the light, where my lighting is, I get a lot of reflection off shiny cards anyway. It's been a real problem with the Founders of Gloomhaven video. But sleeves, I just can't, it doesn't work. Right, Rick, is that why you still have a Nokia? Yes, I still have a Nokia, whatever. No, I've just lived so long without a smartphone, but times are changing. I might be getting one in the next month or two. I'm sure Vicky's on a £5 a month contract. I'm sure I can afford £5 a month for the convenience of having a smartphone. But yes, I'm going to have to decide which one to get. Anyway, do you play board game apps? Yes, Mark. I play the Through the Ages app because it's fantastic. I've played the Galaxy Tricker one because that's fantastic. Among the Stars, I got sent a promo code for Among the Stars, which has just come out. I played a bit of that. I don't play much of them, to be honest. And I've recently got the Pathfinder Adventure card game, which is a game that I absolutely detested, hated so much. But I now have the app and I'm enjoying playing the app. So go figure. Yeah, so I do play the occasional board game app on iPads. Right, Jerome, cows over space dinosaurs all day, every day. Yeah, to be honest, if you gave me Great Western Trail with cows to Kansas and Great Western Trail with space dinosaurs, I'd choose the Kansas one, even if they were exactly the same game. But yeah, I say it doesn't really matter. Travis says, Ave Roma, beautiful game, epically game-destroying rulebook. That's a real shame. Alex is here. Hi, Alex. Yeah, smartphone, maybe. The Mayday sleeve sizing guide. Yes, that is fantastic. And they do so many different sizes, which is really, really good. AJ, I'm just reading these out live now. So do you think more games need to consider accessibility for colorblind and deaf gamers, or are they doing enough? All games should consider accessibility for colorblindness. Full stop. If you don't, you're failing. I'm sorry, there's no excuse for it. You have to consider colorblindness. Let's go back to Transatlantic, which didn't. Anyway, deaf gamers, that's interesting. I've never considered accessibility for deaf gamers. And I have a friend who lives in Hertfordshire who's deaf. Yeah, I don't know how you would consider, because there's no part of a board game which relies on sounds being made. So I'm not sure how you would make a game more accessible for deaf gamers. It's an interesting one. I'm not sure about that. Have you played any LCGs? Yes, Alex. I talked about this right back at the start of the thing. So when this Q&A goes live, you can go back to the start of it. We talked about LCGs. We talked about Netrunner, Call of Cthulhu. I talked about the fact that I've played loads of them. For those people who don't know, back in the 90s, I played the original Netrunner, and I was actually I was a DCI level 3 judge at the time, which was the highest level of judge you could be. And I actually was the UK official tournament coordinator for Netrunner. So not only did I play Netrunner back in the 90s, I was the guy who organized all of the official UK Netrunner events. So when the new version of Netrunner came out, of course, I was very excited about it. And the first year it came out, I organized off my own back a UK championship at UK Games Expo that year. That's now been taken over by Asmodee and FFG, and they now run the nationals. But the first year it came out, I decided to organize that myself. So yeah, I don't play any now. I love the idea of card games and building your own decks beforehand, but I just don't have time to do it these days. Yeah, color blindness is a massive issue in gaming. Well, it is, but as I say, publishers can do something and should do something. And the ones that do, their game is accessible. I'm lucky in that I'm not colorblind at all, so I don't see that. But yeah. Right, what do you think about real-time games? Bit of a hit, Captain Sonar or Magic Maze. So real-time games cause me stress, as they do with most people. And sometimes that can be good and sometimes bad. Space Alert is an absolutely fantastic real-time game. It's just so hard to play. So some real-time games, yeah, good. Magic Maze, I've played it 3 times. It was all right, but we found it hard not to cheat. We found it hard not to, point to other players' cards and be telling them what to do. So Captain Sonar, I've not actually played yet. So yeah, I do play some real-time games. What theme would you like to see done that hasn't been done before? Definitely Space Dinosaurs. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to think about that, which means I don't know. Paul's heading home. Thank you very much, Paul, and thank you very much again for sponsoring the show. Paul, who's in the chat, Paul is GamesLaw, and GamesLaw has sponsored the show by basically giving £25 of gift vouchers to somebody. Now, I'm going to have to be going sometime soon. Vicky is arriving home anytime soon, and then we're going to have to go to the pub quick before they close to get the food. So let's just answer some questions. How often do you game a week? Sometimes 3 times. I gamed this Monday, and on Wednesday, and on Friday of this week. Sometimes it's only once, but this week's been a good week. It's been 3 times. Fuzzy Bear, hello. Lucia, have you played Hearthstone? Hearthstone is amazing. Hearthstone is fantastic. I played Hearthstone when it came out, and I got in on the beta. I played Hearthstone every single day of my life for about 2 years because it was just so fun and it's so enjoyable. After the first expansion set, though, Hearthstone became more and more random. They introduced so many more mechanics that made it way more random. Then I went off it for about 1.5 years. Then I've started playing it again recently. I've not played it for about a week, but Hearthstone is such a polished app. It's so well done. The game fixes so many things wrong, so many things that are wrong with LCGs. The power curve is fantastic. Forget all this land nonsense. That's one reason why Magic for me is a flawed game. In Hearthstone, you just get 1 mana one mana on turn 1, 2 mana on turn 2, 3 mana on turn 3. It's just brilliant. 30 card decks, 2 of each card. It's just brilliant. I love Hearthstone. I think it's fantastic. I play now. I don't play Constructed, really. I just play the Tavern Brawls and the solo scenarios. They're just fun. They're just really a lot of fun. So yes, I do play Hearthstone. What's your favorite game? Mage Knight is still my #1 favorite game. If I was to have to pick one, I just think it's an absolute masterpiece of a game. I have so many. I joke that I've probably got about 50 games in my top 10. If I were to pick my top 10 or say, oh, this is a top 10 game for me, I have about 50 of them. There are so many games that I absolutely love, and I would find it very hard to do an actual top 10. I probably have a top 3, maybe a top 5. Mage Knight is my number 1, and I've not played it in 3 years. Why is that? Yeah, time. Play once and destroy games. How sick does it make you feel to cut them up and throw them away? So an interesting story. Pandemic Legacy Season 1. It makes me feel physically bad for ripping something up that I own. I don't like doing it. Going back to the previous conversation, if you were listening, about my slippers and things wearing out and why I sleeve things. I like to look after things that I own. So ripping up cards in Legacy games, no, that was a big no-no. And thankfully, when we played Pandemic Legacy Season 1, some of the other players also didn't want to rip things up. So what we did is we had an envelope that said ripped up cards, and instead of ripping them up, we put them in the envelope. Okay? And that's what we did. And it made us all feel a lot more comfortable about the game. And then when we finished, I've got this envelope that's packed full of ripped up cards. Well, not ripped up, it says ripped up cards. And they're no use whatsoever. They're absolutely useless. So it made me rethink about it. If we had have ripped up those cards during the game, the net result would have been the same. Me putting it in an envelope because I felt uncomfortable ripping it up, only to then it sit in the envelope and now me just throw it away. If I'd have ripped it up at the time, it would have caused a feeling within the game that would have made me feel uncomfortable, but it would have given me more of a feeling of a thematic thing. This has gone. Bang, we've used it, gone. So I think if I was to play Season 2, I would probably now rip up the cards. I'm a convert because I've experienced what it's like not ripping up the cards, and I do agree I would have probably enjoyed the experience a lot better if I'd have ripped them up. Anyway, what food will you be getting at the pub for dinner? Not sure. Vicky said this morning that they are advertising. They've just done it up, our local pub. It's a pub stroke restaurant, and they're doing this thing, which I think is pie and a pint for a tenner. So I guess I'll be having a pie. What is the longest single game you've ever played? 2008, 15-player, Advanced Civilization, 8 players, 15 hours. Never forget it. We started at 11 o'clock at night. What a stupid idea that was. Can you do a live stream playing a game of Hearthstone? Yeah, I could. I thought about this the other day for some reason. I don't know why. I think there's a number of content creators that do live streams of playing games, and I don't have the equipment. I don't have the technology. I don't have the camera setup or anything to be able to do proper live streams. Plus, I don't, as you'll see from this live Q&A, I don't have a good upload speed, and fiber broadband is not in my area yet. So I thought, maybe I should live stream me playing some computer game. So I had the idea last week, and I don't know where the idea popped into my head. So I could. And yeah, I guess that is something I could do. I don't know what games people would want me to play. I would have to find the time for it. I would have to get software installed on my PC to enable that, which might already be installed. I don't know. I've never done it. I've never live streamed anything from my TV. But if my Patreon supporters would like to see that, then yeah, sure. That's something that I certainly could do. I won't be very good at Hearthstone, but I could do it. Right. You've summed up why Legacy is popular with some people. Yes. Please remember to thank Vicky for the late arrival and the long Q&A session. I will. I've said, I really want to finish this at 7 o'clock because these are exhausting to do. And it's now 8 o'clock. I've been here 2 hours and I'm loving this. This is great. So thank you for being here and making this so good. Twitch. Yeah, I've heard of Twitch. I know that's a thing. I guess, do I have to install it? I don't know. I mean, I'd do it on YouTube. I'd just do it on YouTube using this method. That was the door. That's why I jumped. So I'm going to be going soon. Let's wrap up these questions. What board games are you looking forward to this year or next? So Alex, I've mentioned that one earlier on. I'm a bit out of the loop with actually what's coming out because I'm so busy working on so many projects myself. I actually don't know what's coming out this year or next, I'm afraid. Do you have any interesting stories from when you were a Netrunner judge? Yeah, I remember Gen Con in Loughborough, 1990. No, 1990. Guildford, Netrunner, UK National Championships, 1999. We hosted it in the Guildford Centre when they were running the UK Magic Championship. And then we took a break from playing a round of Netrunner because there was only like 8 of us. And we started playing Perudo, and we were making loads of noise. We got complaints from the Magic people. That was quite funny. But yes, anyway, so that's that. Are you a Kickstarter addict? No, not at all. I back very, very little on Kickstarter, if anything at all. I don't want to get caught up in all of the hype. Kickstarter is a big hit and miss. I'm not a big fan of these bling minis games that are really expensive. And the kind of games I like and the kind of games I buy are generally not ones which go on Kickstarter. They normally publish through normal retail. There are some exceptions to that, obviously. And a number of my clients who I work with use Kickstarter as their distribution model. I have no problem with using Kickstarter, but there's a lot of overly produced games on Kickstarter that are just artwork, miniatures, and there's no game there. And it's really disappointing, or the game just isn't very good. So I generally avoid Kickstarter and not get caught up in the hype. Anyway, I'm going to wrap things up. It's 8 o'clock. It's been 2 hours. I'm exhausted. Vicky's just got home. Hello. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any other questions that you want to ask me, then the Board Game Geek Guild. I mentioned this at the start of the video. I have a guild. It's on Board Game Geek. It's guild number 2258. You can ask me anything there, and I will generally answer this. Or I do these once a month. If you have any questions, I will answer them next month. But yeah, so that's about it. I hope this has been okay. I hope you've enjoyed watching. And for those of you watching back on YouTube, then please remember you can't enter the contest. You had to enter the contest while this was going out. So just one last shout. You've got 5 minutes. If you haven't sent me an email to enter the contest and you want to be in with a chance of winning £25 worth of games vouchers from Games Law, you need to send me an email, which is paul.grogan@outlook.com. And you need to send in the body of the email, you need to say Claude the Cat. That's Claude the Cat up there. Just send me an email saying Claude the Cat. And if you are a Patreon supporter, please mention that, and I will do the draw, and one person will win. I'm exhausted. I'm absolutely exhausted. I need to lie down after this. I'm so exhausted. These are really enjoyable to do, but they are exhausting. So yes, thank you very much to everybody for joining me. I will now find the stop button on here, which is here. He looks down. Right. So yes, thank you very much for joining me. As I say, go and join the guild on Board Game Geek, and yeah, ask me anything there. But until next time, take care, and thanks for watching.